In this tutorial, I will teach you how to make the login system for our blog layout. When you are logged in our system, our name will be showed. And also we can click the log out button to log out for our blog. So let's get started. Before start editing to our code, we need to understand what is readers and what we are going to implement by using readers. So readers, you can just like the local variable to our web app, and all the state we can pass it to the readers, just like the login state, whether the user is logged in. So we can pass the state to the readers. So readers variable will contain it to hold our app. So we need to install readers to store whether the user is logged in or not. So to deal with Firebase and readers, so there's somebody created a package called react-redex Firebase. So this is a very useful package for the user who are using Firebase and React and Redux together. So when the user is using Firebase authentications to log in, the Firebase object will store in the Redux itself, and every page we can call the Firebase object. And last but not least, we need to create a login button. There is a package called react-firebase UI, and this package allows us to build a very easily buttons. This package allows us to build a button. When you click the button, then we can call the Firebase object to log in. So we don't need to write so much code for the login system. So we go back to our code and start build our login system now. We need to install those three packages plus a other package called react-redex. So Redux is the Node.js package, but we can apply it to our React applications. So we need to install our react-redex so that we can use the Redux and the Redux react-redex Firebase. So we enter npm install Redux react in Redux react-redex Firebase, and last but not least the React Firebase UI. So after those packages are installed, then we can start editing to our code. Okay, first step we need to do is to create a new file in our config folder and rename it to the Firebase Redux. So this file is used to combine our Firebase object and the Redux package. So firstly, we import the combine reducers and the create store. So combine reducer we need to use it because we will use the reducer from the react-redex Firebase, and we need to combine to our Redux itself. So we need to combine reducer to combine our existing reducer to the Redux. And also we need to use the create store. Create store will be used in our applications. So we will put it to our app.js. Once our app is start running, and we will create a store to the whole app so that our applications can use the Redux store as state in here. Okay, we can need to import the Firebase reducer. So this reducer we're going to combine to the Redux. So this reducer is written by the react-redex Firebase package. So last but not least, we need to import our Firebase object. Okay, the next step we need to create some variables and functions. So we need to create a variable called root reducer. So this reducer is the main reducer we are going to apply to the readers. So we call the combined reducer here. In here, there's a JSON object. We need to pass it, and we call it to the Firebase, and we pass it, and we pass the Firebase reducer to the object here. And also, we need to create another variable called initial state, and we make it empty in this moment. And we need to create a store. And this store, we will create store by using these functions. So when we create store, we pass the root reducer, and we can pass the initial state here. So which means when we get the store, we will also get the reducer from the react-reduce Firebase. And we can also create the RF config. So this configuration you can reference for the react-reduce Firebase. They provide much information you need. Okay, so we need to create another called RF-pros. So in here we pass the Firebase object here, and we pass the config from the RF config, and we also pass the dispatcher. So dispatch means we need to make our reducer into our state. So we need a dispatcher to convert the reducer state to our props. Okay, so last but not least, we need to create two import functions. We call get-react-store, and when the user call this function, we will return the store itself. So this function will be called in our app.js. And last but not least, we need to return the RF profs, and we return the RF profs. So after we have do all the configuration, so we move to app.js and start import our readers in our app. So here, first step we need to do is import the provider. So provider is used to handle all the readers in our applications. So provider will import from React readers. So because readers is originally started for the Node.js application, and if we want to use the readers in a React, we need to have a provider to convert the readers in our React. So in here, and we can do it here in the div before the routers. We can add the provider in here. In each, the app can only contain one provider in the whole app. So the provider must be wrapped in the whole app in here. So in the provider, we need to pass the props called store. And store, which means the store we have created in here. So we will need to call this function here. Okay, so we go back top here, and we import get-reader-store and get the RF props here. The props we will use that to the react-reduce Firebase provider. Okay, that means we have provider here, and we need to also have a provider called react-reduce Firebase provider. So this provider is from react-reduce Firebase. So those provider we use it together can make it more simple and make our app development time more faster. So as I mentioned, so we also need to import the react-redex firebase provider from the react-redex firebase. So we continue editing our provider here. So in props, we can just get redex store here. And remember, our provider should wrap it for the whole app. So we put all the routes within the providers. And also we need to include the react-redex firebase provider, and we can just wrap it into get RRF props here. So we can just wrap it for the, we use spread operator and spread our props. Okay, later on we can just edit from the react-redex file here. And last but not least, we need to wrap it all the code here within the react-redex firebase provider. So after we have do these things, then every route, every page in our applications can call the readers and get the variable. And next step, we go to the, and next step we need to create a page called login page to start making our login page. So we create a new folder in the layout. So we create new folder and we call it to login page here. Okay, in here we create the login page.js and we create the login page.modules.css. Okay, in the login page, what we're going to do is make our import our React library. So we just make it for the stateful component. So we can also import the container from the React strap in case we do the responsive web page. And also we can import a connect from the React readers. So this connect is the high order component used to get the state from the readers. So later on we will use it in the export sentence. So later on I will explain more. So we also import the style firebase authent from our React Firebase UI, and they had the component called styled firebase authent object. Okay, so this object we can easily to implement our login system without and so much coding. Okay, last but not least, we need to import our firebase from our config folder. Okay, here, and here we can start contouring, making our login page as usual. So we put the container in this wrapped random method, and here we cannot just write the export default login page here. It is because we need to use the connect object to pass out all the state for this component. So to do that, we need to use a things we call it enhance. Enhance is the high order component from React. So we first create a variable enhance and we call the connect method here. And in the connect object, we need to pass the reader state in here. We get the reader state in here, and to enhance the high order component will pass the state from the readers to our component here. Okay, so we will do it. We get the Firebase state from readers, so we can just enter the Firebase, and we only want to get the offend object and the profile from the Firebase readers object. So we have add the Firebase Firebase reducer here, and we will want to get the readers object from the reducer. Okay, so here, and we will need to make the arrow function, and we get the offend object and profile object to our app. Oops. So what is happened? Oh, we forgot to close. Okay, and oh, we forgot to open. Okay, whether it's fixed. Oh, sorry, it should be this one. Okay, so in this statement, we want to get the state from the readers and make it into the profs from our component. Last but not least, we need to make it to a high order component, so we wrap it for our existing component here, and we will start editing our render method. So after we have import our styled Firebase of an object, and we import it in here, and in here we need to pass two profs. The first prof is UI config. So the UI config is used to determine whether to determine how we log in. So there's two types to log in. The first type is port out. So we create a new window and log in, and the window will be closed. And the second type is in the same page. So we don't need to jump to the other page to log in. So we can start to config here. And in the config, we can also config which login provider we will provide. Some like the Google providers or the Facebook or the email, so we can add it in here. So we also need to pass our Firebase of an object, and we call firebase.offend. So this firebase.offend object is from the Firebase object. Okay, and we start editing our UI config. So we create a new variable called the UI config. So in here we can do our configurations. So the first variable we will create is the login flow. As I mentioned, there are two types of login. So I use the pop up windows to log in. That means after I click the login button, and the new window will be pop up, and after I have logged in, the pop up window will be closed. And also we have the sign in success URL. That means when I have signed in successfully, so which URL we will restrict. So maybe you can restrict to the home page, restrict to your profile page, etc. And more information, then you can go to the React Firebase UI to see more configurations. And last but not least, we need to set up our login option. And login option, we need to use an array to contain it, and we can use a multiple login provider, just like we can use the Google or the email. So you need to configure our login provider in the Firebase console. So in this application, I will use the Google login to do our login providers. So if you want to make the Facebook login, GitHub login, or Twitter login, so you can go to the Firebase console to configure. Maybe you need to register some APIs to it. So last but not least, we need to pass out this UI config in the as a parameters. And here we go. We finish this login page, and then we're going to editing our headings. So in here, the headings, we were going to receive the state of the user, whether the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, then we show the logout button here. But if the user is not in, then we show the login button here. But how to get the props from our readers? So we need to use the enhancer and the connect function, just we do in the login page here. So we can just copy for the enhance here and paste it to the heading.js, and we also need to wrap it for our component. So after we have make this enhanced higher order component to wrap it to our component, then we can use the props from our Firebase. Remember, when I copy from the previous JavaScript file, we need to also import the connect object from the react-redex. Okay, and here, how to determine whether the user is logged in. So we can call this props offend is empty to determine whether this user is logged or not. This is because when user is logged in, then the offend object is not empty. However, if the user haven't logged in, then the offend object is empty. So we here, if the offend object is empty, that means the user haven't logged in. So we will render the login button to him. If the offend object is not empty, that means the user is already logged in, then we will render the logout button here. So how to make the logout button? So we can make a button here. Remember, this button we call it from the React strap, so we go back here to import our button. In the button, we can add the onClick method, and in the onClick method, we can call the firebase.offend.signout. So you can see there's an error here because we haven't import our Firebase object here. So in here, we can import the Firebase object from our config folder. Okay, so here we can handle the logout button, but how about login? We need to restrict the people to the login page. So we can use what we have learned in the last tutorial. We can use link to use the React router to go to the login page. In here, we can just pass for the path name, and we'll set it to the login page. So we wrap it within this link component, and remember we need to also import link. From our React router DOM. Okay, so after we click the login button, we will restrict it to the login path. So we need to also add the path in our switch and make it to the routes. So we go back to our app.js. So we create a login path to it. So we can import our login page from the layout login page, not login page.js, and we create another routes. So the path we will going to use the login, and we will pass the login component here. So after we save, so let's see what happened. Okay, we go back to our web, and you can see if the user haven't logged in, only the login button will show. When we click the login button, the location will be changed. And we click the sign in with Google button and start our sign in. And you can see the identity provider config is disabled, which means we haven't allowed the Firebase to use Google authentications to log in. So we go back to our Firebase console and we click the authentication here. In the tab we call the sign in method, we click here and you can see the Google login is disabled. So we click here and we check this into enabled and we save. Oh, we need to write our email, so I use my email. So after we have enabled Google login, so we go back to our app and refresh it. We click again. So you can see our Google account can be chosen. And after we've logged in it, you can see the logout button is here. So when we click the logout button, oops, is not a function. Okay, so let's see what happened in our code. Okay, we go back to the heading.js and let's see. So we call the Firebase, or we call our config folder, and we have the offend. Oh, so in here, offend is a function, is a method, not a variable. So we need to add our bracket to our offend because we call this method and we return to offend object and we call the sign out method. So if you save and go back the web, so we log out again. So you can see the log button is disabled and our login button will be shown again. So our last step is to display the username in the headings. So we go back to our code. So to implement printing the username is very simple. So we can just wrap it in here and we will check whether the user is not in or not. So we use this .props.offend is empty. If this empty, that means the user have not in, so we print out nothing. But if the user is not empty, that means they already logged in it, and we can just output this .props.offend .display names. So after we save, we go back to our code. So you can see my name is displayed here. So thank you for watching. In the next tutorial, I will teach you how to make the page have the user restrictions. That means only the user is logged in that can create an article. Otherwise, the user will be restricted to the home page. So see you next time. Clipversity is a self-learning platform with knowledge-based recommendation systems, providing a personalized learning experience for the self-learner and the school students. People could share their knowledge and exchange for the rewards. We are doing the next generation learning tools for the next generation of learners.